Welcome to Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something lots of English learners run into. How do you really make progress when you're studying all by yourself? No teacher, no regular speaking partners.
Right, it's a common challenge, but definitely not impossible.
So we've looked into some effective techniques, strategies designed to help you speed things up, even when you're flying solo.
Exactly. The goal today is to give you some really practical, actionable things you can do, covering different bits of language learning for, a well-rounded approach.
Okay, let's dive in. Where should we start?
Well, let's kick off with something that seems simple, maybe even a bit basic, but it's actually really powerful. Reading English texts out loud.
Reading aloud, okay. I mean, most people read silently for understanding, so why speak the words? What's the real benefit there?
The key is how it engages multiple senses. When you actually say the English words, you're not just seeing them, you're hearing them, you're feeling the rhythm. It helps you tune your ear, get a feel for the flow, the intonation. You start to internalize how it sounds, builds a stronger connection through your own voice.
Okay, so it's like experiencing the language more fully, not just visually. How does that help with remembering things, like vocabulary?
That auditory feedback loop is fantastic for memory. Hearing yourself say the words, the phrases, it helps lock them in much better than just reading silently.
Right.
You're hitting the information from different angles, basically.
Right.
Which strengthens recall. And another big thing, confidence.
Confidence, how so?
Just hearing your own voice, speaking English regularly. It makes you less hesitant, less anxious about actually using it in a real conversation down the line. It sort of normalizes it for you.
Interesting. Yeah, it bridges that gap between just knowing a word and feeling comfortable saying it. Okay, so moving on. Another big piece for solo learners must be just surrounding yourself with English, right? Even passively.
Oh, absolutely. Immersion through things like English podcasts, music, videos, it's vital.
Yeah.
Massively helpful for getting better quickly.
Why is it so vital?
Because it pulls you out of let's say, the textbook English and shows you how people actually use the language day to day.
Right, the messy, real-world stuff.
Exactly. You hear all sorts of accents, different speeds of talking.
Yeah.
It sharpens your listening skills like crazy, makes you better at understanding in different situations.
And I guess it exposes you to more natural language, too, like slang and idioms.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You pick up regional things, colloquial expressions, the kind of everyday language native speakers use without thinking. That's gold if you want your own communication to sound more natural and, effective.
It's about catching those nuances, the cultural context. Okay, let's switch gears to producing language. Writing. We're not talking big essays here, are we? More like regular practice.
Exactly that. Just writing regularly in English. Could be a journal, a blog, even just short notes or thoughts. It pays off big time.
How does it help specifically?
Well, obviously, it improves your writing skills directly. You practice sentence structure. You actively use new vocabulary. But there's something else. The act of putting your thoughts down in English actually starts training your brain to think in English. And that's a massive step towards real fluency.
Huh. So writing actually helps restructure your thinking process. That's fascinating. Any other perks to keeping a regular writing habit?
Definitely. It gives you a tangible record. You can look back and literally see your progress over time, which is hugely motivating.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Plus, it acts like a diagnostic tool. You spot your own recurring mistakes, the grammar points you struggle with, the vocabulary you need to work on. Helps you focus your efforts.
Like a personal error log. That makes sense. Okay, vocabulary. Old school flashcards. Are they still a thing? Still useful when you're learning alone?
When used right, absolutely. Especially for solo learners needing to nail down new words and phrases. The power is in the repetition. That spaced repetition, reviewing them regularly. It really helps move words from short-term recall into your long-term memory. That's the key insight there.
So it's the consistent revisiting that makes them stick. What makes them good for solo study specifically? Is it just the repetition?
Well, and they're just so portable, aren't they? You can whip them out anywhere. Waiting for a bus, coffee break, turns dead time into quick review sessions.
True.
And you can organize them by topic, by difficulty, makes the whole process feel a bit more systematic, less overwhelming.
Good point. Leveraging those little moments. Okay, the big one for many, speaking. How on earth do you practice speaking if you don't have someone to talk to?
Yeah. It's crucial, though, even if it feels a bit weird at first. Talking to yourself using language apps with speech recognition.
Yeah.
You have to actively practice speaking.
So we shouldn't feel silly having English conversations with the cat then.
not at all. Whatever works. The point is, regular speaking practice, even solo, builds fluency. It makes your speech smoother, more natural over time.
And how does it help beyond just like mouth muscle memory?
It reinforces the language structures, the vocabulary, in a really active way. It engages different bits of your brain compared to just reading or listening, deepens the understanding.
Okay.
Plus, you can practice common responses, phrases you'll need in real conversations, kind of like rehearsing. Makes the real thing less scary.
A mental walkthrough, right. This leads nicely to something else that might feel awkward. Recording yourself. Why would someone do that?
It sounds daunting, I know. But listening back to yourself is incredibly powerful. You catch things, pronunciation mistakes, grammar slips, awkward phrasing that you just don't notice while you're speaking.
Oh, provides that objective ear.
Exactly. It's like being your own coach. Self-assessment is a massive tool for improvement. You become much more active in fixing your own errors.
I can see that. Does it help with confidence too, maybe?
Definitely. Just getting used to the sound of your own voice speaking English.
Yeah.
It reduces that anxiety, that feeling of unfamiliarity. It makes it feel more natural, more yours.
Okay, so we've got listening, speaking. What about mashing them together? Combining the skills?
Yes. A really effective technique is listening to English audio and simultaneously repeating it aloud. Shadowing, it's sometimes called.
Shadowing. Okay. So you listen and speak at the exact same time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Or with a very slight delay. It forces you to focus intently on the sounds, the rhythm, the intonation, while also producing it yourself.
Sounds intense.
It can be, but it's great for nailing pronunciation and rhythm because you're mimicking native speakers in real time. Plus, using ears and voice together like that seems to really boost retention and understanding. Multiple senses working at once.
Makes sense. Okay, so beyond these specific exercises, how do you make English part of your life when you're learning alone? Integrate it more?
That's a great point. Weaving English into your daily routine makes the learning stick because it becomes practical, relevant. You're constantly reinforcing things naturally.
How would someone actually do that? Like practically?
Simple things, really. Change your phone language to English.
Yeah.
Label stuff around your house, the kettle, the microwave. Try thinking in English while you're cooking or commuting. Narrate your day in your head, or even quietly aloud.
Ah, so creating little pockets of English immersion in your own environment.
Exactly. It provides that constant low-level exposure and practice, helps maintain your skills, and keeps everyday vocabulary fresh.
Right. Now, with all these different techniques, it feels like you could get easily sidetracked. How important is it to have clear goals?
Oh, absolutely fundamental, especially for solo learners. Setting clear, achievable goals is crucial for staying focused and motivated.
So not just get better at English, but something more specific.
Precisely. Like, learn 50 new words related to cooking this month, or be able to explain my job in English in under 2 minutes. Specific goals give you direction, a target.
And I suppose it helps you see if you're actually making progress.
Exactly. You can measure against your goals, see the improvement. That fuels motivation. Plus, having a plan built around goals stops you from feeling overwhelmed by, the sheer size of learning a language. It breaks it down.
Keeps it manageable. Okay. Let's dig into another technique. Imitation. You mentioned shadowing, but this sounds a bit different.
Yeah, imitation here is less about exact mimicry for pronunciation and more about understanding and re-expressing ideas. You listen to someone speaking, maybe a chunk of conversation, a short speech, and then you try to convey the same message in your own words.
Okay, so you're processing the meaning and then reformulating it. What's the benefit of that?
It's fantastic for improving sentence structure, grammar, vocabulary use, but crucially, your ability to actually express thoughts coherently in English. You're practicing the whole package, not just sound.
Are there different levels to this?
Right.
Ways to approach it?
Sure. You could start small, imitate just 1 or 2 sentences, or listen to a whole thought, then summarize it. The next step might be listening to a longer bit and retelling the main points.
Sort of like climbing a ladder of difficulty.
Exactly. An easy to hard approach usually works best. Start simple, gradually tackle more complex bits as you get comfortable.
And what's the underlying magic here? Why does this imitation work so well?
Well, what's really interesting is that it taps into implicit grammar learning, kind of like how kids pick up their first language. You're focusing on communicating the meaning, not on consciously applying grammar rules. So you start to absorb the patterns, the structures, more naturally, more intuitively.
Learning by doing, essentially. Okay, that's really interesting. Let's shift to listening comprehension again. It's such a tough nut to crack for many. Any advanced tips beyond just, listening more?
One thing to try, and it sounds counterintuitive, is to consciously stop trying to translate or analyze everything in your head as you listen. Just listen. Let the information flow in. Avoid that frantic mental double-checking.
Right, that internal translation track can really slow you down and make you miss the bigger picture.
It really can. Another trick, especially for longer listening pieces where your mind might wander, is to actively ask yourself questions as you go. Okay, what was the main point there? Who are they talking about now?
Keeps you engaged, like mini comprehension checks for yourself.
Exactly. Breaks it down. Keeps your brain focused. Now, thinking about using media, like movies or TV,
Yeah, how can we use those effectively for listening?
a really powerful method is watch without subtitles. Focus on a short bit, maybe just 2 or 3 sentences. Replay it. Many times at first, maybe 10 plus. Then fewer times as you get better, say 3 plus.
Okay, intense repetition. Then what?
Then try to write down every single word you hear. After that, turn the subtitles on and compare. See what you missed. Practice saying those tricky words aloud until your ear starts to recognize them.
Ah, pinpointing the exact sounds you're struggling with.
Right, and then listen to that same segment again, no subtitles. You'll be amazed how much more you catch. Oh, and try listening with your eyes closed sometimes. Really forces you to focus only on the sound.
That's a very structured approach. Sounds time-consuming but effective. What kind of shows or movies should people start with? Is there an order?
There's a suggested progression, yeah. Start with kids shows, simple language, lots of visual cues, then maybe easy sitcoms, often slower pace, simpler jokes.
Okay.
Action movies can be next. The context, the visuals, often explain complex vocabulary. Then you can move to dramas or shows with darker humor. They tend to use more sophisticated language without spelling everything out.
A learning curve for viewing. Good tip. Anything else to listen for specifically?
Yeah, listen for anchor points. Things like time markers, dates, numbers, times, names, places. Also words that signal importance. Superlatives like most, best,
Yeah.
or necessity words like never, always, must, should. They often flag key information.
Little signposts in the conversation. Got it. Okay, this is all fantastic advice, but putting it all together, how can someone structure their week? Can you give us a sort of sample plan?
Sure, a realistic goal might be about an hour a day, maybe Monday to Friday. Even 30 focused minutes is good if time's tight.
Okay, an hour a day. What would that look like?
So maybe Mondays. Reading focus. Grab an English book, maybe a bilingual one if you need support. Read English news online, check out Simple Wikipedia, jot down new words and meanings. Then practice speaking by reading some of it aloud. Practice writing by copying a paragraph. Maybe listen to the audiobook if it exists.
Okay, day 1. Reading and related skills.
Tuesdays. Writing focus. Write a journal entry, talk about yesterday, plan tomorrow, leave comments on English YouTube videos, write about the book you're reading, what you like, don't like, summaries. Keep adding to that vocabulary list. Read your own writing aloud. Maybe use a text-to-speech tool to hear it back.
Right, focusing on producing written English.
Wednesdays, listening focus. Watch an episode of your chosen English TV show. Listen to an English song you like multiple times. Watch some English YouTubers. Listen to your audiobook. Maybe do extra things like writing about the show, shadowing the actors, singing along. And keep noting vocab.
Midweek, tuning the ear.
Thursdays, speaking focus. This is key. Aim for 30-40 minutes of actual speaking. Ideally, with an online tutor platforms like Prefly, Cambly, italki are options if the budget allows. If not, talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Narrate your actions, read aloud, shadow actors from your Wednesday show. Use the remaining time for maybe more listening or reading aloud.
Dedicated speaking time, even if it's solo. Makes sense.
Fridays, vocabulary focus. Time to consolidate. Review all the new words you collected during the week. Say them aloud. Use them in sentences. Drill them using Quizlet or flashcards until they feel learned.
Locking in the week's new words. And weekends.
Weekends. Maybe find a new song for next week. Pick the next book or TV show if you finished. Or honestly, take a break. Let your brain rest and consolidate. That's important too.
That's a really solid, actionable weekly structure. Covers all the bases.
The main thing, really, is consistency. Showing up, doing something regularly, using a mix of these strategies, that's what leads to real progress, even when you're learning all on your own.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and practical strategies to really accelerate your English learning, even when you're studying independently.
Remember, consistent effort and mixing up these techniques will definitely lead to noticeable improvement. It just takes time and dedication.
Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to our next episode.